You know, all the records used to say prominently, no synthesizers. And then I come along like another schmuck and put synthesizers on everything.
I wasn't too happy at the time, but I gave it my blessing. That's the deal.
The sort of polarity of writing within the band changed.
I think the time has come where we actually, in songwriting, we actually completely even. Roger will come up with something like Radio Gaga, and it's perfect.
It was a Sunday afternoon. My son Felix came in, he was very young, and he just sort of went, radio, caca, because he's half French. And so I just thought, it's quite nice, you know. I sort of put the backing track together and then sort of presented it to Freddie, who really loved it.
We took it into the next room, and then Fred and I worked on the vocoder parts, you know.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo.
Radio Gaga.
If you listen several times, it says Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga brought Queen back.
It came from more of a rock thing. Radio Gaga combined the best elements of the 70s with the 80s, and that's where I think Queen had a strength with the works.
Was more of a substantial hit, even though it didn't actually make the top 10 in America. But it got played a lot, and the video made a big impact.
Let's hope you never leave our friend, like all good things on you it depend. So stick around, 'cause we might miss you when
We had a killer video, which we put a lot of work into.
you had the time, you had the power, you've yet to...
And the whole thing just felt good, and it felt of its time, it felt a bit different, it felt modern, and it was very fresh.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga.
All of a sudden, people would participate jointly in Radio Gaga situations. Collective statement that was good on the radio or on a turntable. In live, it really was a unification.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga.
Freddie said, what we do is like the Olympics. It's people believing in you and everyone behind you and everyone doing the same thing together. That's Olympics. And he said, that's what we do.
Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga.
Suddenly, the MTV generation grew up, and video became all important.
The most enjoyable video was I Want to Break Free, because we just laughed.
I was dying to dress up in drag, doesn't everybody? And everybody ran into their frocks quicker than anything. It was their idea, basically, and I said, yeah, let's have a go.
I want to break free. I want to break free. I want to break free from your lies.
That great video was a loving reference to Coronation Street.
I've got to break free.
Of course, people didn't understand that in America. It just looked like we wanted to dress up in drag.
God knows.
Yeah, it was unthinkable to most of Middle America.
To break free.
It's a particularly British thing, and sometimes the humor doesn't translate. I'm Canadian, so I get it. It was just a different style of humor, and I don't think it went over with the MTV generation.
I remember this video being banned. MTV were very quick on the trigger to ban things then. I mean, if you thought Mary Whitehouse was bad, you should have seen or known some of the geezers running MTV in the very early 80s.
Well, MTV were very narrow-minded. It was Whitesnake and fucking fucking Whitesnake, and then another Whitesnake track. And they decided they didn't think that Men in Drag was rock enough, I guess, and so they didn't play the video.
Most Americans were deprived of my and Freddie's favorite moment of that video. I said to Freddie, you know, I just love the way you double step
But life still goes on.
to get from one room to the other.
I can't get
And he said, oh, I'm so glad you noticed it. That's my favorite part.
without you by my side. I don't want to live alone. Hey, God knows. Got to make
Funny thing is, we became global, but we lost America. And we kind of never got it back.
I've got to break free.
Freddie wouldn't go back to tour America unless they were touring a hit. And of course, that's the chicken and egg, because the less you tour America, the more you lose America.
Sad. It's a shame, because there's a whole catalogue of hits, which are sort of worldwide hits, but not in the States. And that will never come back.
Appearing at Sun City never helped anybody's image, and sometimes it hurt. Sun City was this resort of international standard in South Africa, and the position taken by most of the rock community was that if you went to South Africa, you were supporting apartheid.
Well, it's nice. It's really nice to be here in South Africa, and I just want to have a good time.
Anything you'd like to say to your South African fans?
Yeah, we hope you get real excited, and because we're pretty excited to be here.
The controversy behind Sun City, Sun fucking City, which I'd never heard of the place.
The principal reason that Queen went there, undoubtedly, was because they offered a very large amount of money.
And there was all sorts of hoo-ha going on. You know, you mustn't play Sun City because it's a sign that you're supporting apartheid. Well, it's simply not true. If you adopted a policy of never playing in a country where you don't approve of the politicians, there would really be very few places you can play.
Did you know that you had so many fans in South Africa?
Well, I think we had some idea that, of our popularity here, but we didn't realise it was quite that.
Jim went down there time after time, and I said, Jim, are we going to play to mixed audiences? The answer is yes. You know, we're not going to play to segregated audiences.
And it was not an apartheid audience, but it was mainly white.
Going to the concert?
Yeah, definitely.
What have you heard about them?
I've heard it's a great show.
What are you expecting at the concert?
Oh, something fantastic. I've heard it's the most fantastic show ever.
The band then supported a school for the deaf in Bophuthatswana that we became very involved with.
The general audience doesn't read the small print. It just sees the headlines. And if it goes, you're making a lot of money playing a gig in South Africa, an apartheid state, it makes it look like you're supporting apartheid. It did not help them.
I will say to my dying day that we acted properly according to our conscience as regards South Africa. We went there to play music the same as we did all kinds of other places.
We got so much shit for it, but we went for good reasons. But on balance, I think it was a mistake to go.
Whenever the band came under pressure, there would be maybe a walkout, a separation, a row.
Sometimes I feel I'm gonna break down and cry. Nowhere to go, nothing to do with my time. I get lonely, so lonely, living on my own.
I like Queen very much, but I mean, I don't want to end up living a quartet. I'm 37 years old, and I want to do something different, and it's about time I did. Otherwise, I'll get too damn old, and I'll be in a wheelchair.
There was a lot of strain when Freddie did his solo album, mainly because the advance was actually considerably more than advances for Queen albums.
There is an inward jealousy, and they're all wondering and all waiting for us to see if say, my album's going to do better than the last Queen album or something like that.
It's not easy.
Sometimes it's nice to actually sort of break away from a group that's actually been going for so long, meaning staying away.
He was definitely contemplating the idea of what living on my own actually means, because, I mean, he lived in Munich for well over a year. When Freddie was alone in Munich, he had to basically fall back either on the gay community or, I mean, he needed some sense or decent advice, he'd call us. He was hanging out a lot at our place. He'd spend a lot of time with the kids. It was nice, like a family affair. He said a lot of times that this was his best time in his life.
Out of the songs you put on this album, Freddie, which one do you find the most rewarding, personally?
Oh, I don't know. The one that sells the most.
Freddie had a very fulfilling experience of creativity, but he didn't have a very fulfilling experience, how shall I say, economically.
The Mr. Bad Guy album really was a disaster in terms of sales. The strength for Queen came from the arguments. It was the fact that you had to fight your space. Songs got fine-tuned by that. And Freddie working on his own in Munich, with an orchestra and Mac, there was nobody really to stand up with him.
Well, tomorrow, the pop world's greatest extravaganza, as we've been talking all morning, Live Aid, will be bringing together rock's brightest and best from both sides of the Atlantic, and all performing for free in the hope of raising millions for the starving people of Africa.
You know, looking back, there was a moment when Queen were thought of as a good group that was predominantly historic. Radio Gaga was their one big hit in 4 years. They weren't on a hot streak. And they weren't a particularly productive group at that time. There was a feeling that maybe that was it. But Geldof ordered them to regroup and perform.
The thing was, did Fred want to do it? You know, because Fred wasn't that keen.
You know, I think Freddie was a bit reticent about doing anything. But Bob came in one day when we had talked about the Live Aid thing, and he said, I told Freddie he's doing it. And I kind of believe him.
It really is a gathering of the rock world elite, and already rehearsing in here are some of rock and roll's royalty.
It was rehearsed quite intensely at the Shaw Theatre on Euston Road.
Queen took the responsibility more professionally than anyone else on the bill.
I went out and bought these big plastic white clocks and put them sort of in the orchestra pit so we could see the time.
There was an 18-minute slot that each artist had, and there were traffic lights at the side of the stage, and you were warned when you walked on that the traffic lights, you know, after 16 minutes would turn amber from green. And he said you won't see them turn red because the power goes off.
So you make it quick, and you make it something they know.
To start the 16 hours of Live Aid, would you welcome Status Quo?
The energy that day was sensational.
We were all quite nervous, actually, and not necessarily our audience, because they'd put together the whole of the bill of Live Aid before we'd been announced as being on it.
They set the level for the PA with limiters, and then when Queen came on, Tripp, who was Queen's sound engineer, switched the limiters so that Queen would be louder.
You know, from the word go, he came out of the traps like a champion.
Freddie performed against the advice of his doctor because of a throat condition. But he went out there and gave one of the greatest live television performances ever. The ballet with a BBC cameraman was shockingly charismatic.
Every night